Welcome to the Global Issues Daily. Today we're bringing you a comprehensive forensic explainer of a disaster that absolutely captivated the world. We're looking at the newly released findings from the U.S. Coast Guard regarding the June 2023 Titan submersible tragedy. As you'll see, this isn't just a story about extreme engineering, it's a chilling look at extreme human hubris. We're going to use official data and testimonies to build a clear picture of exactly what went wrong in the freezing depths of the North Atlantic. Right, let's get straight into the timeline. 90. That's the number of minutes it took for a highly publicized commercial mission to the Titanic shipwreck to turn into an unimaginable nightmare. Just an hour and a half into its descent, the Titan submersible's carbon fiber hull completely surrendered to the crushing pressure of the deep ocean. The entire vessel imploded. All 5 people on board were killed instantly. In a literal blink of an eye, it was over. For nearly 2 years, the world has wondered how a supposedly modern vessel could suffer such a catastrophic failure. Well, now we actually have the answer. The U.S. Coast Guard just released a devastating 335-page report detailing their exhaustive investigation. And their conclusion? It's chilling. They found this was not some freak, unpredictable accident. It was an entirely preventable tragedy, born out of deliberate negligence. Chapter 1: The Tragedy and the Findings. The core finding here is that OceanGate, the company behind the Titan, fundamentally failed to follow standard, modern engineering protocols. Their operation manuals were incomplete, and their testing methods were, frankly, dangerously unsafe. They kept using this vessel despite glaring warning signs from previous dives without ever doing proper checks on the hull, which brings us to the stark statement from Jason Neubauer, the Coast Guard Investigation Board chair. He stated unequivocally, the 5 lives lost could have easily been saved. You know, that tells us this wasn't just a minor technical glitch slipping through the cracks. It was a conscious failure to follow basic safety practices. It really shifts the whole narrative from a tragic exploration accident to a shocking case of negligence. Chapter 2: Engineering and Material Failures. So, why exactly did the Titan fail mechanically? Well, it all starts with a highly controversial design choice, using a carbon fiber hull for a deep-sea vessel. This was practically unheard of. Now, carbon fiber is amazing in aerospace because it's lightweight and strong, but the deep ocean is a totally different beast. It's incredibly hostile. You see, carbon fiber is a composite made up of layers. Under the immense crushing weight of the deep ocean, those layers can actually start to separate and tear apart. That's a structural failure known as delamination. Multiple experts had explicitly warned OceanGate that carbon fiber was fundamentally unreliable for these extreme depths. They knew the physics, but the company chose to just ignore the science. And those expert warnings, they actually manifested into physical reality over a couple of years. In 2021, cracking sounds were recorded inside the hull during missions. By 2022, even more cracking sounds were documented. The machine was quite literally crying out, signaling that delamination was likely happening. Yet, OceanGate blatantly ignored these massive physical red flags. They didn't initiate any proper hull checks before that fatal dive on June 18, 2023. This catastrophic ending was actually recognized by those on the inside. Take Rob McCollum, a former consultant for OceanGate. He delivered this truly chilling assessment. It was mathematically certain to fail, just a matter of when. Think about that. This wasn't just hindsight, this was the prevailing wisdom among industry experts at the time. The engineering failure was a known, calculated inevitability. Chapter 3: The Culture of Hubris. So how does an entire company just ignore mathematics, physics, and its own expert consultants? To understand that, we have to look past the machine and focus on the leadership. Stockton Rush, the company's founder who tragically died in the implosion, basically held all the cards. He was the CEO, the pilot, the lead engineer, and the safety officer. By putting all of those critical roles into the hands of one single person, he completely eliminated any checks and balances. It set the stage for a massive, systemic failure where literally no one could overrule the boss, even on matters of life and death. And if you did try to step up and implement those checks and balances, you were punished for it. Back in 2018, OceanGate's operations director was fired. His offense? He presented a safety report about the submersible directly to Stockton Rush. Raising safety concerns was strictly prohibited within this corporate culture. Whistleblowers who pointed out the obvious dangers were routinely ignored, completely sidelined, or, like this director, abruptly terminated. Rush's response to that fired operations director really tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. He told him, "Your conservative approach is against my vision." The message there is crystal clear. Speaking up about safety meant losing your job. Rush held this incredibly dangerous belief that traditional safety certifications and rigorous testing were just things that stifled his innovation. He viewed safety as a roadblock, not a baseline requirement. Now let's look at the operational details to see how this culture of hubris translated into everyday practice. The standards were frankly, shockingly inadequate. This highly complex submersible was being navigated using a modified PlayStation controller, and when investigators looked at the pilot manuals, critical sections were literally just marked, "To be determined." That means they were diving miles under the ocean without finalized emergency procedures. The entire deep-sea operation manual was a mere 4 pages long. This level of amateurish, incomplete preparation is just difficult to wrap your head around, and it ultimately cost 5 people their lives. Chapter 4: Financial Pressures and Shortcuts. But hubris wasn't the only thing at play here. Behind all the bravado of deep-sea innovation, a severe lack of funding was forcing some deadly cost-cutting measures. When you're miles underwater, the absolute industry standard is real-time voice communication with your surface ship. It's absolutely crucial for managing emergencies. OceanGate, however, opted for a system of delayed text messages. The investigation revealed they actively chose this subpar lagging system over real-time voice comms for one very simple reason: to save money. By 2023, the very year of the fatal dive, this financial crisis had reached its peak. Employees were actually being asked to defer their salaries. Stockton Rush was draining his personal funds just to keep the lights on. And most dangerously, this severe financial squeeze led to a massive exodus of seasoned professionals. The experienced staff left, and they were replaced by inexperienced engineers who were suddenly put in charge of managing an incredibly complex, totally non-standard submersible design. A former OceanGate director gave this stark, devastating assessment of the situation behind closed doors. They said, "It was like a high school project, and the team was at that level." I really want you to let that sink in for a moment. They were attempting one of the most hostile, technologically demanding journeys on Earth, with a team and a process that insiders equated to a high school science fair. The gap between the complexity of the mission and the actual capabilities of the team was, tragically, fatal. Chapter 5: A Warning for the Future. The Coast Guard's exhaustive 335-page report isn't just an autopsy of a broken machine, it's a profound lesson on accountability. And the report pulls absolutely no punches when it comes to culpability. It definitively states that if CEO Stockton Rush had survived the implosion, he would be facing recommendations for criminal charges. This really cements the absolute, undeniable responsibility of OceanGate's leadership. The deaths of those passengers were the direct result of a leadership team that placed their own egos and a sort of pseudo-innovation above fundamental human safety. We're left with this final, haunting quote from Stockton Rush himself: "Safety is a waste. At some point, you have to take risks." It's a grim reality that his calculated risk didn't result in the thrilling innovation he promised. Instead, his complete disdain for safety engineered a tragic, irreversible journey of death. He gambled with the ocean, and the ocean won. Which leaves us with the most important question moving forward. Will the world actually learn from the Coast Guard's Titan report? Or will unchecked hubris, combined with a lack of rigorous oversight, trigger the next entirely preventable disaster? It's a stark reminder of the vital importance of safety regulations and the deadly cost of ignoring them. Thank you for joining us for this explainer on the Global Issues Daily. If you found this structured analysis valuable, please make sure to subscribe and like for more deep dives into the vital global issues shaping our world.